there's culture, and if one wants to bring about transformation or elevation or moving in a certain direction, this is an area that one needs to look at, the culture. So using the metaphor, there's different metaphors. One of them I like is the iceberg metaphor. And everybody knows, except for the Titanic people, everybody knows there's just the tip of the iceberg, and then there's the major part of the iceberg that's below the surface of the water. So in the iceberg of culture, the tip of the iceberg is things that are observable, measurable, visible. They're behaviors, symbols, or anything that comes in touch with the senses having to do with culture. So that's what their term is, artifacts. The tip of the things that you can see within a culture observably or measurably. And then there's the big part of the iceberg that's below the tip of the iceberg, and that's the values, explicit values, just like an organization. One of the things they do is they make a mission statement. And then next after the mission statement are their official beliefs. This is important to us, like Prabhupada did with establishing ISKCON, the 7 purposes. There's the name, and then there's the purposes. It's one of the requirements of New York State law that if you want to incorporate, you have to say what your purposes are. So that's the official values of this organization or this group of people or our family or myself or something. And values drive behaviors, and behaviors impact values. There's an interplay between them. But the focus of this discussion is on the values. And then at the very bottom of the iceberg is values might change, but there's some things that just don't change. And whatever those things are, implicit, unchanging, unchallengeable certainties about life, that's at the bottom of the iceberg. And the idea of a good organization or a good person or a good group of people is to have an alignment in those 3 areas, heading towards a goal or purpose or mission. So our focus is going to be on this middle area, but there's an acknowledgement of that middle area, the stated values, has interplay with the others. Now, in culture, the stated values may stay on the platform of this is our stated values, and we don't live that way, because that's kind of common. An individual may say, this is something I believe in, and they don't always behave that way. So there's a distinction between information and something that's more subtle and more important, and that is knowledge, or knowledge that is always regularly applied, and that the outcome of knowledge that's regularly applied is wisdom. So Bhagavad Gita, for example, there's information within Bhagavad Gita for sure, but more than that, it's transcendental knowledge coming from the perfect person. And those who live by Bhagavad Gita, those are persons that have experience that's beyond information. It's wisdom. So it's a common phrase that I use in speaking in general about Bhagavad Gita. I call it wisdom literature. And all cultures have their wisdom literature. Time-tested, doesn't depend upon circumstance and the way people view things during a particular period of time. It's just wisdom. So that's the type of knowledge that's in Bhagavad Gita, just making that contrast. However, one may have some understanding of what's wise, but one may not be there yet. That's common. Say, we know what our stated values are. We have our mission statement. We're just not there yet, either in terms of behaviors, the tip of the iceberg, or even the consistency of living by our values. Thinking now about groups and their mission statements of a group or an organization or a company or something. And that invites this concept, the concept I speak about a lot, just like, say, chant the holy name and chant the holy name without offense. Those are two different things. So we know that we should, and that's what's on the right-hand side. It's where we want to go. And the left-hand side is where we are. And Bhagavad Gita also has teachings, wisdom that we can accept, but we're not there yet fully. So that big gap in between where we are and where we want to go, this Gita values is not to discourage people that aren't there yet. It's to help them feel clear of what the value that Bhagavad Gita is teaching, and know that there's a gap between where we are and what that value of Bhagavad Gita is, yet continue forward. And the continue forward part is the yoga element. That's Krishna's there to help us. If we try to make progress between where we are and where we want to go and forget Krishna, it's going to be a long journey. So that's the yoga element. Krishna is there to help us. Now, I'm mentioning this to this audience because with a newer audience, it's a big deal because it's new, plus it's high. And the value isn't necessarily something there's disagreement with, but there may be hesitation or some thought that it's too high. It's not something attainable. So that the gap, bridging the gap between where we are and where we want to be, is the Krishna factor. And I'll end this little introduction with this nice little image I like. There's a journey that we have an idea of where we want to go, but it's kind of unfolding as we go. So this doesn't show this nice young lady with Krishna helping her, but Krishna's helping in the path of yoga. Okay, so we're so far we've covered the first three of the Gita values. Let's see if I can remember what those three are. Anybody remember what those three are? The first one? Huh? Non-violence. Ahimsa. Next one? Samadarshana. Samadarshana. Seeing others equally. I've forgotten. What?
Humility after that.
Humility. Very good. So rather than review what those three are, let's go forward. Teaching by example. The Acharya principle. Any value or quality remains if we learn it from the deepest place of our hearts. Hey, we're inviting the audience here to do a 5-minute mantra meditation. I don't know if we need to do this because we all chant regularly. But this is an introduction for newer people to enter them into the Bhagavad Gita's message. It's a nice